Hello my friends, and welcome to part 2 of my 4-part miniseries in which I am giving a look at every Japanese vending expansion sheet card. This is technically part 2, so if you haven't seen part 1 and want to get the full story, check out the blue episode first. If you are new here, well, basically I'm going over every expansion sheet card that was obtainable through vending machines in Japan in the late 90s. Almost all of these cards appear in the also Japanese-only Pokémon Trading Card Game 2, a game that I have come to be familiar with. So I wanted to give a look-see and briefly discuss every single card in each set throughout 4 parts. These cards were distributed in 3 series, blue, red, and green, and it is now time to get into the red series. And as a side note, any card that does not appear in TCG2 will be getting discussed in part 4, so stick around until then. But there's one thing I wanted to say real quick. I very recently hit 10,000 subscribers and I truly wanted to thank everybody for that. I'm closing in on my 3rd year with this channel and the fact that I got to this milestone number is just so humbling. I am not going anywhere anytime soon, so prepare for even more Pokemon and Pokemon TCG content. And, maybe even Metroid or other series if I feel like it down the road. But for now, I just wanted to officially thank everybody here because it's encouraging to know that hard work can pay off for doing something you enjoy. I really am grateful. Next up, 100k. So without further ado, let's get into some red cards. The Red Series was released in Japan in June of 1998. I think I forgot to mention this in the last episode, but the Blue Series was released in March of 98. Area 1 is doing its best to continue the story with the Rock Tunnel. Rock Tunnel Sheet 1 contains Onix, Sandshrew, and Spearow, Sheet 2 contains Spearow, Machop, and Flash, and Sheet 3 contains Sandshrew, Ditto, and Machop. Vending Onix is a 70 HP fighting uncommon with the moves Bind and Rock Seal. For 1 fighting, Bind does 10 damage and paralyzes with a heads flip. For 2 fighting, Rock Seal does 20 and your opponent can't retreat on the next turn with a heads flip. Yeah, this Onix is actually pretty decent and quite a bit better than the base set one. Onix was never powerful, so only doing small damage with some paralysis or preventing damage is pretty decent, and 70 HP is no slouch. As for the artwork, I did make fun of it in one of my videos. Gene gets 4 Pokemon for his first draw and goes with the absolutely most ugly Onix I've ever seen. What is even happening here? I'm serious, is it like abstract artwork of Onix? It's so distracting. But I think it looks better on the card than on the GBC. It's abstract in Tomokazu Kamaya's style and shows Onix hiding from some rain. I didn't even know that it was rain on the GBC. It's a bit sad, really. Vending Sandshrew is a 40 HP fighting common with the moves Poison Sting and Swift. For 1 fighting, you choose between the 2. Poison Sting does 10 damage and poisons with a heads flip. Swift does 20 and avoids any weakness, resistance, or Pokemon power effects. And yes, if you know me at all, Sandshrew is my favorite Pokemon of all time. Not Paraspectre, Sandshrew. I completed TCG2 using only Sandshrew and Sandslash, and I loved Vending Sandshrew. It was essential in completing that challenge, and that was mostly because of Swift. Any flying Pokemon with the fighting resistance would absolutely give me problems normally, but this Sandshrew was able to knock those birds right out of the sky. And it can poison. Vending Sandshrew is so much more versatile than the base set one. Big fan of this one. I like the artwork here too. The standard Sandshrew pose with some sand and mountains, I guess? Vending Spearow is a 40 HP colorless common with the moves Fury Attack and Gust. For 1 colorless, you choose between the 2. Fury Attack does 10 damage for each heads on 2 flips, and Gust does a simple 10. Really, there's not much to it. Take the certain 10 or chance 0, 10, or 20. That's it. Weirdly enough, main game Spearow actually can't learn Gust. That's more of a Pidgey thing. And then the artwork ironically looks like Spearow is using Gust here with a cave in the background, probably Rock Tunnel. Vending Machop is a 50 HP fighting common with the moves Focused One-Shot and Corkscrew Punch. For 1 colorless, Focused One-Shot doubles Corkscrew Punch's damage on the next turn, but only with a heads flip. If the flip is tails, Machop can't use Corkscrew Punch on the next turn. For 1 fighting and 1 colorless, Corkscrew Punch does 30, or 60. Another one of these like with Focus Energy or Swords Dance, except a Tails not only fails in doubling, but also stops Machop from dealing damage too. At first it's kinda like, why not just use 2 turns with Corkscrew Punch and deal 60 anyway? Why bother taking the focused one-shot gamble? I can only think of a few reasons. 60 in 1 hit does bypass a fighting resistance. If you only have 1 energy on Machop, it's something to do until you get 2, and it could cause your opponent to rethink a strategy knowing 60 damage is on the way in the next turn. So there's kind of a bit to this card really. And the artwork is in that abstract style of Machop throwing rocks in a cave. Then we have the trainer card Flash. It is not in TCG2. I'll save it for part 4. And finally we have Vending Ditto, who is also not in the game. Another one for part 4. Area 2 is going to be the Power Plant, so it's time to check out some zappy friends. Power Plant Sheet 4 contains Magnemite, Voltorb, and Magneton. Sheet 5 contains Electabuzz, Zapdos, and Magnemite. Sheet 6 contains Raichu, Voltorb, and Electabuzz. Vending Magnemite is a 40 HP lightning common with the move Super Conductivity and has the Pokemon power of Magnet. Magnet allows you to search your deck for another Magnemite to go on your bench with a heads flip, unless Magnemite has a status condition or your bench is full. For 1 lightning, Super Conductivity has you deal 10 damage to any of your opponent's Pokemon, bypassing weakness and resistance. Yeah, this is a pretty cool card. Magnemite is all about reinforcements. You can find up to all 4 of your Magnemite cards in just a few turns, potentially increasing your chances of finding Magneton faster. And I've said this before, but I love cards that damage bench Pokemon, so this one is up my alley. I'm also a fan of the bold artwork here. It kinda looks like the lab from the Bulbasaur card too. Vending Voltorb is a 30 HP lightning common with the moves Thundershock and Group Spark. For 1 lightning, Thundershock does 10 and paralyzes with a heads flip. For 2 lightning, Group Spark does 20 and 10 more for each Voltorb in play. Yeah, under rare but possible circumstances, this little 30 HP Voltorb could be dishing out 90 damage in a turn. I don't think this Voltorb counts as a Voltorb in play, even though it is. Can anyone confirm that? As for the artwork, it's Komaya's abstract style again, which is kinda funny for Voltorb. A literal ball, and it's not even a perfect circle here. But it is tearing up that power plant. Also, hello Electabuzz. Vending Magneton is a 70 HP lightning uncommon, rare on the GBC, with the move Microwave. Yes, Microwave. This is like the prototype for Heat Rotom. For 2 lightning and 1 colorless, Microwave does 20 damage to any of your opponent's Pokemon, ignoring weakness and resistance, and it has them discard an energy on them with a heads flip. Yeah, I think this Magneton is pretty sweet. It can damage benches, including ground types with the lightning resistances, and then potentially squashes strategies for powering up with energies. This is Magneton's only move, but I am a fan. The artwork has Magneton in front of a generator or something with electricity flying everywhere. That must be the Microwave. Vending Electabuzz is yet another that will have to wait. It is not in TCG2, although it is on that Voltorb card. Vending Zapdos is 70 HP lightning uncommon, rare on the GBC, with the moves Raging Thunder and Thunder Crash. For 3 lightning, Raging Thunder does 50 damage, and then if you flip a Tails, one of your Pokemon gets hit for 30, ignoring weakness and resistance. For 2 lightning and 2 colorless, Thunder Crash does 50 damage, and then with a heads flip, 20 more. With a Tails flip, Zapdos takes 20 damage. Yeah, there's a lot of potential self-inflicted damage going on here, but not dissimilar to other Zapdos cards. Base Set, Fossil, and the GBC exclusive all have moves that can hurt Zapdos or others. That must be its thing. But yeah, this is not my favorite of those though. The artwork is pretty decent too. A very bright yellow Zapdos contrasted by the darkened power plant. Vending Raichu is a 70 HP lightning uncommon, rare on the GBC, with the moves Short Circuit and Sparking Kick. For 2 lightning, Short Circuit has you choose any of your opponent's Pokemon and it takes 10 damage for every water energy on it. For 2 lightning and 1 colorless, Sparking Kick does 30 and paralyzes with a heads flip. So Short Circuit is another situational move. It will either be quite powerful or entirely useless. But if it is useless, Sparking Kick is pretty good. 30 damage a turn with possibly paralyzing. I mean, that's not bad at all. And the artwork has Raichu standing on a mossy rock, actually done by Atsuko Nishida, the designer of Raichu. Area 3 is here to continue the Legendary Birds section, so it's time for Seafoam Islands number 1. Sheet 7 contains Seal, Dugong, and Shelder. Sheet 8 contains Jinx, Shelder, and Krabby. And Sheet 9 contains Seal, Articuno, and Krabby. I like that if you see you have a Seafoam Islands sheet, you know you have a 1 in 3 chance at getting one of the birds. Vending Seal is a 50 HP water common with the moves Growl and Ice Beam. For 1 colorless, Growl is the same as it always is. Damage done to Seal on the next turn is reduced by 10. For 2 water, Ice Beam does 20 and paralyzes with a heads flip. So yeah, this is an interesting one for me because when I did my Ice types only challenge, I had to have some Seal cards in order to use Dewgong, even though Seal is pure water. This one had less HP than the base set one, so I didn't really use this. But I think it's definitely better than the base set one because that one only knows Headbutt. This one can be defensive and potentially paralyze. That makes up for the less HP. And the artwork has Seal on a rock in one of the Seafoam Island caves, I assume, looking a little dazed out of its mind. Vending Dewgong is a 60 HP water uncommon with the moves Rest and Aurora Wave. For 2 colorless, Rest heals Dewgong of any damage or status condition and then it goes to sleep. For 3 water, Aurora Wave does 30 and confuses with a heads flip. So this one was one of the options for my ice only challenge, but I personally prefer the base set Dewgong, so I didn't really use this one either. Rest could be nice, but it doesn't have a whole ton of HP to heal. The artwork has a hazy looking Dewgong on a rock against a sunset. Icy Dewgong loves that hot sunlight. Vending Shelter is a 50 HP water common with the move Water Spout. For 1 water and 1 colorless, Water Spout does 20 and then 10 more for each extra water energy on Shelter, up to 2 more. Basically just Water Gun. Water Spout is another move introduced in the main game in Gen 3, but is much more powerful than this. And just like with Seal, I had this Shelter in my challenge too, but wasn't able to use it. Such weird artwork too. A very simple drawing of a shelter, but with extremely bold lines. Vending Jinx is a 50 HP Psychic Uncommon, rare on the GBC, with the moves Ice Punch and Cold Breath. For 1 water, Ice Punch does 10 and paralyzes with a heads flip. For 2 water, Cold Breath does 20 and puts the defending Pokemon to sleep with a heads flip. So yeah, this is one of the rare early cards that uses different energies than its typing. Jinx is Ice Psychic, so it's cool that it's trying to utilize both here. But it will do double the damage against Pokemon with a Psychic weakness and not a Water one though. This was also a card that got a re-release with different artwork as one of the unnumbered Japanese promos. But the Vending artwork is pretty cool actually. Jinx is out gazing into the sunset. Yeah, what's with these ice types in the sunset though? Either way, I like it more than the Dewgong one. Vending Krabby is a 40 HP water common with the moves Bubble and Guillotine. For 1 water, Bubble does 10 and paralyzes with a heads flip. For 1 water and 2 colorless, Guillotine does 30. Yeah, a move known for being a one-hit KO move costs 3 energies to deal 30 here. Jungle Pinsir also has Guillotine and I don't like it there either. I actually do like the artwork style here a lot, although with that perspective, you could almost mistake it for a Kingler with the 1 claw bigger because it's closer. Just a nitpick. I like that it's holding a little beach ball or something here too. And lastly, we have Vending Articuno, an 80 HP water uncommon, rare on the GBC, with the move Ice Beam, and has the Pokemon power of Aurora Veil. Aurora Veil is if Articuno is your active Pokemon, none of your bench Pokemon can take any damage or be affected by other moves unless Articuno has a status condition. For 2 water and 2 colorless, Ice Beam does 30 and paralyzes with a heads flip. Honestly, not a real flashy card for it being one of the legendary birds. Ice Beam having a full 4 energy cost is a lot, even though 2 can be colorless. But yeah, this was also one of the few to get an English release as well as the July 2002 Pokemon League promo. Not only that, it was also released in the Japanese Quick Starter gift set in December of 1998. And honestly, I'm not a huge fan of the artwork here. Everything looks like it was rushed, and Articuno is a bit too small. Too much empty space too. I think they let Articuno down with this card. Oh well. Area 4 is Victory Road. Wow, the end of the game already. But yeah, I know it's because of Moltres. Victory Road Sheet 10 contains Graveler, Venomoth, and Fearow. Sheet 11 contains Fearow, Marowak, and Machoke. Sheet 12 contains Venomoth, Machoke, and Moltres. Vending Graveler is a 60 HP fighting uncommon with the moves Stone Barrage and Earthquake. Yes, the return of the mighty Stone Barrage. For 2 fighting, Stone Barrage does 20 damage for every heads until a tails is flipped. For 3 fighting, Earthquake does 50 and all of your bench Pokemon take 10 damage. So it's like Vending Graveler is a combination of Fossil Geodude and base Dugtrio. Stone Barrage, in theory, could do infinite damage, but we all know it sucks. However, this one dealing 20 per heads instead of Geodude's 10 is actually pretty scary. And then Earthquake does dish out a bit of damage, but with the self-inflicted penalty of hurting your bench. If Graveler is your only Pokemon though, it's pretty great. The artwork is pretty interesting too, of Graveler looking sinister next to the Victory Road steps or something. Vending Venomoth is a 60 HP grass common with the moves Stir Up Twister and Rainbow Powder. Wow. For 2 grass, Stir Up Twister does 20, and then both players switch their active Pokemon with a benched one, with your opponent going first. For 2 grass and 1 colorless, Rainbow Powder does 20, and then paralyzes with a heads flip, poisons with a tails flip. Yeah, keep in mind this is a common too, not bad at all. And this was one that got a re-release in 2001 with the Japan-only Pokemon web series as one of the earlier e-reader cards. The artwork is pretty standard, of Venomoth flying over a stone structure, dispersing rainbow powder everywhere. Vending Fearow is a 60 HP colorless common, uncommon on the GBC, with the moves Quick Attack and Drill Drive. For 2 colorless, Quick Attack does 10 with a tails flip, 30 with a heads flip. Standard for Quick Attack. For 3 colorless, Drill Drive does 50 unless a tails is flipped. So it's cool that both attacks really benefit from a heads being flipped, but now that I'm saying that out loud, no, that's not cool at all. Relying on coin flips sucks. At least Quick Attack will still do some damage, even if a tails is flipped though. And the artwork is kinda ugly really. But Fearow isn't a very interesting Pokemon. Sorry Fearow fans, it's just how I feel. Vending Marowak will be around in part 4. Vending Machoke is a 70 HP fighting common, uncommon in the GBC, with the moves Mega Kick and Steady Punch. For 2 fighting, Mega Kick simply does 30. For 3 fighting, Steady Punch does 30 with a tails flip, 50 with a heads flip. Damage dealing only. And the artwork here is from the same designer of the Vending Shelter card, Nobuyuki Habu, and no offense to the artist, but it's just not for me. I like the bold lines and all, but yeah, I don't know. Yeah, a lot of the art in this series isn't blowing me away. And lastly, we have the 3rd legendary bird, Vending Moltres, an 80 HP fire uncommon, rare on the GBC, with the moves Dry Up and Fire Wing. For 2 fire, Dry Up has you choose any of your opponent's Pokemon and then discards a water energy from it for every heads until you get tails. Another move with the potential of being completely useless. For 3 fire and 1 colorless, Fire Wing simply does 50. They really lessened the power of the legendary birds in these sets, I gotta say. I think Moltres is probably the best though, but like I said, one move could be useless, and then the only damage dealing move it has takes 4 energies, so it's not great. The artwork though, I think is pretty decent, with the fire all around and even off of the picture. Of the 3 bird cards, I think Zapdos has the best artwork, but Moltres is the best card, but not by much though. Moving on to the final 2 areas. Area 5 is Saffron City. Saffron City Sheet 13 contains Guard Spec, Hitmonlee, and Lapras. Sheet 14 contains Max Revive, Lapras, and Hitmonchan. And Sheet 15 contains Master Ball, Guard Spec, and Max Revive. No Pokemon there, ouch. But hey, very true to Saffron City here. Guard Spec is not in TCG2, yet another Part 4 card. Vending Hitmonlee is a 50 HP fighting uncommon, rare on the GBC, with the moves Double Kick and Rollin' Kick. For 2 fighting, Double Kick does 30 for each heads on 2 flips. For 2 fighting and a colorless, Rollin' Kick does 30 and paralyzes with a heads flip. Yeah, a fighting move that paralyzes in the TCG, interesting. I think this is pretty decent though. It isn't too often you see a fighting card cause a status condition, so that makes Hitmonlee pretty unique. This was also another like Venomoth to later get an e-reader card in the Pokemon web series. And the artwork is okay, I guess. Hitmonlee is standing on a Pokemon? Kinda hard to tell. Looks like talons though. Maybe it's a Fearow. Vending Lapras is a 60 HP water common, rare on the GBC, with the moves Sing and Surf. For 1 colorless, Sing causes the defending Pokemon to sleep with a heads flip. For 2 water, Surf does a simple 30. Yeah, this was the big surprise of my Ice types only challenge. I didn't expect to like this one as much as I did. If I remember right though, I don't think Sing ever worked, not even once. So it was all about the 30 damage from Surf for 2 waters. Nothing to it at all, it just worked well. I do like the artwork here too. Finally an Ice type that actually looks like it's, you know, in icy waters. Max Revive is a common trainer card, uncommon on the GBC, that later got so many re-releases, which makes sense because it's an actual main game item. Max Revive has you put a Pokemon from your discard pile onto your bench by discarding 2 energy cards. Nothing really to it there, it's just a better revive but with a cost. And the artwork is human hands with a glowing orb. You are the Max Reviver. Vending Hitmonchan is a 50 HP fighting uncommon, rare on the GBC, with the move Mach Punch. That's it. For 1 fighting, Mach Punch does 20 and then 10 to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon with a heads flip. Yeah, pretty reminiscent of base set Hitmonchan, typically considered one of the best cards in the early game. That one has 70 HP with the ability to deal 20 damage for a single energy right away. This one has less HP with the same gimmick, except you can now possibly hurt their bench. I think this is a fun one and a great turn 1 Pokemon. And the artwork is... yeah, you know what I'm gonna say. Also, come on, why is Hitmonchan kicking the punching bag? What? Yeah, I'm sorry, I hate this artwork. So far, this is the worst one out of all the vending cards. Hitmonlee kicks, Hitmonchan punches. It's as simple as that. It even has Mach Punch as its only move. Okay, let's move on. Master Ball is another one that got multiple releases later on. Here it's an uncommon trainer card that has you look at the top 7 cards of your deck, and you can put any one Pokemon into your hand after showing your opponent. To be honest, I think it could be better for it being a Master Ball and all. A Master Ball catches any Pokemon without fail, and this really could end up doing nothing at all if you have no Pokemon on the way. And the artwork is, well, just a Master Ball. And our final area for the Red Series is going to be Cinnabar Island number 1. Cinnabar Island Sheet 16 has Grimer, Tangela, and Aerodactyl. Sheet 17 has Kabuto, Grimer, and Coughing. Sheet 18 has Coughing, Omanite, and Tangela. And I'll be upfront here, Grimer, Coughing, and Tangela are all not in the GBC game, so they will all have to wait for Part 4. So that just leaves the 3 fossil ones for the Red finale here. Vending Aerodactyl is a 70 HP fighting uncommon with the moves Supersonic and Spiral Attack. For 1 colorless, Supersonic causes confusion with a heads flip. For 3 colorless, Spiral Attack does 40 and Aerodactyl gets hit for 10. Yeah, not great. But the upside here is that Aerodactyl only takes colorless energies. So this one could be great to add to any deck really. And the artwork here is pretty good. A nice clean looking Aerodactyl flying in and potentially wreaking havoc on the Cinnabar lab. Vending Kabuto is a 50 HP fighting uncommon with the move Sharp Claws and has the Pokemon power of Fossilize. Fossilize allows you to return any Pokemon in play that evolved from a mysterious fossil to your hand with a heads flip, and if Kabuto doesn't have a status condition. Essentially a full heal for fossil ones at the cost of losing energies. For 2 colorless, Sharp Claws does 10 with a tails flip and 40 with a heads flip. Yikes. Vending Kabuto really isn't bad at all. And just like with Aerodactyl, it only takes colorless energies. I do like the artwork here too of a freshly revived Kabuto in the lab equipment. And it even says Pocket Monsters there too. And for our final card for the Red Series, Vending Omanite is a 50 HP water uncommon with the move Rolling Tackle and has the Pokemon power of Prehistoric Dream. Prehistoric Dream allows you to do 10 more damage from any fossil Pokemon with a heads flip. And for 2 colorless, Rolling Tackle simply does 20, basically a powered up tackle. So yeah, all of these vending fossil Pokemon only use colorless energies, and the unique thing about Omanite is that it's a water type while its counterpart of Kabuto is fighting. This is exactly the same as the 2 from the fossil expansion as well, even though both Pokemon are rock water types. I think it's because Omanite is blue and Kabuto is brown, to be honest. It looks better aesthetically. I like the artwork a lot too. It's a different take on Omanite being in a lab, and for whatever reason, I like the boldness on this a lot more than the Shelter one, for example. Also, I love Omanite and Omastar too. And there we have it, every card in the Red Series, aside from the multiple ones that didn't make it onto TCG2 for whatever reason. We'll get into those later. This set was very fighting and water heavy and only had a single fire and psychic type. There seem to be more evolved ones here too, which makes sense as we're further into the Kanto games. But it was cool to get the 3 areas that have the legendary birds, even if they are kind of a letdown in my opinion. So where does this take us for the final Green Series? Well, it's a bit of a miscellaneous set. We're going to be going all over the map. And here's the thing about the Green Series. Each sheet now contains 4 cards instead of 3. Oh boy, we're gonna have a lot to get through next time. Yeah, prepare for a longer video on that one. And then finally we will reach my part 4 where we will be going over every card that didn't make it onto TCG2, as well as a little bonus where I will also be discussing all of the cards exclusive to TCG2. Oh yes, it will be a double whammy finale. And as always, a huge thank you to everybody here who chose to support my Patreon. You are all my special friends. And just as an aside for anybody who may be interested in potentially joining, everyone who joins gets assigned a virtual Pokemon card going in card set order. I will try to keep live updates on my Patreon in case you're curious what the next assigned card will be, such as these at the time of me editing this. It's a fun time. Anyway, I will see you all next time for Part 3, the Green Series. Paraspectre will return.